The Governor Cuomo impeachment inquiry has gained another level of complexity, and now it involves his brother Chris Cuomo, the CNN anchor, who conducted multiple interviews with him before this scandal broke. Of course, he's been taken off of that beat, the Cuomo brother beat, a beat that, frankly, I'm shocked CNN put him on at all. As a former TV news reporter, my old station's protocol was that you didn't interview your family members. In fact, my husband was interviewed a couple times by my former employer, and it wasn't even an option. I don't even think anyone would have discussed it as an option that I would be the one interviewing him. And then also my station alerted the viewers before the story ran that this person is connected to our newsroom. So took it pretty seriously, and I think tried to avoid it when possible. I remember when there were critics of Chris interviewing his brother Andrew, and people would push back and say, come on, life is serious enough. Why not just have a little fun? Take it easy, lay off the guys. What's wrong with a few laughs between brothers? Of course, someone might argue that perhaps when a journalist holds others accountable, maybe you don't get the times that end up where you're now taken off the beat because there is an investigation into potentially criminal behavior. But anyway, that aside, this article from the Albany Times-Union titled "Priority Testing for Cuomo Family Associates Will Be Added to Impeachment Inquiry." Under it, CNN says it's not surprising Chris Cuomo accepted priority testing from brother. I'll read you some of it. I'll have the link in the description so you can read the entire article yourself. My initial thoughts on all of this are actually, I'm less surprised that people in powerful positions use their connections to expedite health, for instance, okay? Health testing back at a time when COVID tests were hard to come by. I'm less surprised by that. I think that kind of stuff happens all the time, probably happens in other newsrooms, and it happens in government, and it happens in big corporations. People in positions of power who know people often are asking for special favors. That's not what surprises me. I think what surprises me is just the continued defense of CNN of this behavior, of all this. Like, first, it wasn't weird that Chris was interviewing his brother, and now it's not weird that we're finding out that, according to this article and this investigation, that there may have been some priority given by the governor towards his family and using state resources to do that. I'll read you CNN's response and you decide. But those are my initial thoughts. So to read the opening paragraph here, the State Assembly's impeachment inquiry into the multiple scandals engulfing Governor Andrew Cuomo's administration is a new topic. Whether high-level officials with the state health department were dispatched to run prioritized coronavirus tests on relatives and associates of the governor. State Assemblyman Charles Levine of Long Island, who chairs the Assembly's Judiciary Committee, said that the panel's investigation will now also examine the information that people close to the governor or his administration had received special treatment for coronavirus testing in the early weeks of the pandemic. But it goes on to say that it will not take precedent over the panel's review of multiple sexual misconduct allegations made against Cuomo, his handling of the COVID-19 in nursing homes, or the cover-up of construction flaws by the company that built the Governor Mario M. Cuomo Bridge. Okay, so moving on, scroll down just a little bit. The Times-Union first reported on Wednesday evening, and I'll put the link to that also in the description, that Cuomo and State Health Commissioner Dr. Howard Zucker ordered DOH officials to conduct prioritized coronavirus testing on the governor's relatives, as well as influential people with ties to the administration, according to 3 people with direct knowledge of the matter. Members of Cuomo's family, including his brother, CNN anchor Chris Cuomo, as well as his mother and at least one of his sisters, were also tested by top health department officials, some several times, the sources said. The medical officials enlisted to do the testing, which often took place at private residences, included Dr. Eleanor Adams, an epidemiologist who graduated from Harvard and in August became a special advisor to Zucker. Adams conducted testing on Chris Cuomo at his residence on Long Island, according to the 2 people. Now, this is where I get a little bit what is happening. Okay, this is the CNN response to it. "We generally do not get involved in the medical decisions of our employees," said a release from CNN spokesman Matt Dornick, posted on Twitter by media critic Eric Wemple of The Washington Post, which also reported on the testing program. However, It is not surprising that in the earliest days of a once-in-a-century global pandemic, when Chris was showing symptoms and was concerned about possible spread, he turned to anyone he could for advice and assistance, as any human being would. To act like Chris Cuomo is just any human being with a brother who is not a policymaker and was involved in a high priority and highly publicized response to this pandemic and highly polarized response. All right, to act like this is just something normal, like he's just a normal person who's asking some other normal people, just like all of us do. You know, like me, my parents are doctors, so I call my dad today. I asked my dad about my rotator cuff. You know, like that's just the same thing. You know, it's like Dad, should I go to physical therapy? You know, Chris is like, hey, bro, can I get some testing for COVID-19? Like, it's not the same thing. And like I said, even still, I'm not actually that shocked at the behavior of a powerful person asking another powerful person for help. Not that I think it's right. It's just because I think it probably happens a lot. And it's that CNN defends that, you know, in its continued defense of its reporting of this issue, starting with their host who was interviewing his own brother. Again, one could argue that yes, they took him off when times got tough. He's not on the Brother Cuomo beat anymore. But one could argue that, hey, perhaps if there had been some tougher questions asked at the beginning and tougher investigating at the beginning, maybe it wouldn't have gotten so bad, you know? So I'm going to kind of leave it there. I will say, you know, listen, I've had my dad, for instance, talking about Clorox and other traditional sanitary wipes and what the toxins that are in these wipes and why he uses hydrogen peroxide, for instance, as a doctor, okay, and microbiome and stuff. I've had my dad on to talk about that. I'm thinking about asking him to come on and talk about what it was like as a medical professional who has had kind of an awakening about how to treat patients based on knowledge and information that challenges the standard American Medical Association model of treating people, this sort of sick care model. So I'm not trying to make the case that we just can't talk to people like on YouTube, for instance, about, hey, tell me what this experience was like. I had my friend Joanna on for one of my recent live streams to talk about what it was like quitting TV news, all right? The big difference, though, here is when you're a journalist and you're interviewing somebody in a position of power about their handling of a response that affects a ton of people, not just like, hey, Joanna, tell me about what it was like quitting TV news, or hey, Dad, tell me what it was like as a doctor who was trained in a traditional model and is now trying to unravel the onion layers of what it really means to be a healthcare provider. We're talking about a policymaker handling a pandemic that was both coming with historic health and economic consequences. A guy interviewing his own brother about policies and a pandemic that really deserved some tough questions. I think that's where my criticism lies. And again, I do a lot of commentary on YouTube, so I share a lot more of my thoughts than I did when I was in mainstream news. Back when I was in mainstream corporate news, you know, for all of the criticism that I've shared that you all share in the comment section, there were certain standards of behavior that just went without question. And one of them was when you're dealing with somebody, especially in a position of power, you don't get to be the person to interview them because, of course, we're going to, for the most part, unless we just despise our family member, we're probably going to take it easy on them. And so I think that's where I'm going to leave it. Again, to just reiterate that it's disappointing, I think, when people in positions of power use their privilege without concern for what the average person is dealing with, and especially people who say in a government position who could change policy that would help the average person aren't doing it because, you know what, doesn't affect them because they can get special treatment. That's annoying, right? And sometimes it can be infuriating, okay? I get it. But as a former journalist in a mainstream corporate newsroom, my thoughts on this have really always been focused on what is CNN thinking? What were they thinking when they were allowing these interviews to happen? What are they thinking now defending this behavior? Is it they're just too far down the road on it that they have no choice? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what ends up happening with this as this impeachment inquiry continues. Again, as always, please leave me a comment in the comment section interested in what you think. There are links in the description for how you can support my work, and I will see you next time.